Hi gang, Bob Boving here with The Mystery Project, where our series is the continuation of Peggy Delaney, written by James W. Nichol. A search for a human interest story lands Peggy in the middle of a murder investigation. She also finds a new friend, now that Nick has left town, a police detective. Kyra Harper stars as Peggy Delaney in A Death in the Family.
Hello there. You've reached Peggy Delaney, Toronto Tribune. If you have something confidential you want to pass on, just leave your name and number. The walls have ears. I'll get back to you. If you're calling to give me fulsome, unqualified praise for my columns, feel free now. If you're calling to scream at me, fascist, communist, cop-loving, cop-hating, pro-lesbian, anti-lesbian, pretend anti-establishment, crypto-Bay Street swamp pig, go for it. After all, this is a quasi-democracy.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, about the quasi-democracy part. This is J.J. Mars, responding to your request, and yes, with certain provisions, you can speak to my client. Ordinarily, I would have to say no, but as I recall, I do owe you one.
Hi there, J.J.
Ms. Delaney, delighted. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. It was nice of you to remember how clever I was and how much of a help I was to you when Bernie's little friend got himself in a pickle.
How could I forget?
So, how have you been?
Fine. Sit down. You?
Well, the Trib's been bought up by Core News International. All my friends are getting pink slips. I'll probably be next. But other than that, I guess I'm fine too. Can you smoke in here?
No.
Can I smoke in here?
Well, I'd prefer you didn't. I don't have an ashtray.
So, Jenny Kazan?
Yes, Jenny Casson. Well, it's early days. I've only met with her twice myself. So, what is it exactly that you want to ask her?
Well, the standard, what's it feel like? Isn't that what we always ask? How's it feel to be 22 years old, 9,000 miles away from home, impoverished, working as a nanny, hoping for a better life, and charged with murder?
Human interest stuff, then.
Uh-huh.
But what's your angle exactly? You're not known for writing without a point of view, and I would hope that you'd be, at the very least, sympathetic to my client's plight.
You sure I can't smoke?
I'm positive. Why? Are we bargaining already?
No, I'm having a nicotine fit.
Oh.
Look, I want to put a human face on one more gruesome, bad news front-page story.
Admirable. Is that all?
I'm not going to assassinate your client in my column. The human condition, J.J. That's all I'm after.
All there is factories there.
How much time?
I have an hour, then she's back to lockup. I'll give you 10 minutes.
So, this was near Manila, where you were living, Jenny?
Yes, everybody works in the factories there. They work for $7, $8 American dollars a day. It's very hard there.
And how much were you making at the Ryans?
I was paid $120 a week, and my room and board.
And what did you have to do to earn that money?
I had to look after that baby and do the wash and cook the meals and clean the house.
40 hours a week?
No, more. But I don't complain. I don't understand.
This could be helpful to us if we have to go to trial, Jenny. The public's perception of you is important, and jurors don't live in isolation.
But I didn't do anything.
The police think you did, and they must be sure of themselves, or they wouldn't have brought down a charge so quickly.
Oh, okay. Now we're getting off track. Now, why don't we talk about Jenny's family? I believe she has 8 brothers and sisters at home and a sick father. Isn't that...
But I didn't hurt that baby. I wouldn't.
Then tell me what happened.
Now, wait a minute. Mrs. Delaney, she's already been charged. You can't go public with anything material now that might come up at the trial later. So what's the point?
The point is, I'm not going to write about a generic Filipino nanny. I'm going to write about a specific person. Jenny Casson, if I write about anything at all. So I have to hear her. The point is, If you want me on her side, I have to know her side. That's the point.
In the interests of my client, I reserve the right to terminate this interview at any time.
Okay. So, Jenny, what happened?
I heard the baby crying.
Jason.
Yes.
He's the Ryan's only child? Or was?
Yes. It was about 12:30 or maybe 1 in the morning. He usually woke up about then. So I got up and went into his room and picked him up.
Were you sleeping?
Yes. I sleep right next to the baby's room. He woke me, and I took him down to the kitchen with me, and I heated a bottle. And then I took him back to his room and changed him and tucked him in. That's how I left him.
With his bottle?
Yes. Usually he wouldn't drink all of it, just a little. And then he'd fall back to sleep.
How old was the baby?
11 months. He was balancing on his own. He was going to walk. I fell back to sleep. I didn't wake up again until I heard Mrs. Ryan screaming. I jumped out of the bed and I went out into the hall. Mr. Ryan was already running towards the baby's room. He told me to go back and get dressed. So I did. And then when I came back out, I saw Mrs. Ryan running down the stairs, holding Jason. I went downstairs too, but they had already rushed outside to the car. I went back upstairs again. I went into my room. I prayed. I prayed and prayed until the police came. And they questioned me. All these questions. And they took me out the house and down to a police station. And then they took me down here to jail. But I wouldn't hurt their baby.
Hurt? Murdered, you mean? Strangled to death, wasn't he?
Yes.
Hello?
Is this Boise, Idaho?
What?
I'd like to order a ton of mashed potatoes, please.
It's you. I thought I'd finally ditched you.
No such luck. How's everything going, Nick?
Yeah, there's a foot of snow outside. My mother's threatening to move from the nursing home back here, and the doctor says I've got hives.
Swell. Anything on a new job?
No. Have you been fired yet?
Not yet. I miss you.
I miss you too. I guess.
I've got a favor to ask you.
Of course you do.
Do you know a Detective David Lee or a Detective Carlos Szabo in homicide?
I know Szabo pretty well. Why?
He's working a case I'm interested in. I just need an intro.
You want me to call Carlos Szabo and ask him to talk to Peggy Delaney? Are you kidding? You're not exactly the Metro Toronto Police Association's poster girl.
Amber and I'll come visit you when I take her home to Vancouver in the summer.
Really? Well, I think I'd appreciate that.
Detective Szabo, I presume?
Yes.
Well, your secretary was right. That yellow tie works every time.
That was no secretary. That was a lieutenant.
Oh. Well, whatever. Can I sit down?
Well, sure.
You were expecting me, weren't you? The lieutenant person, she said you had a break between 2 court cases and we'd meet in the coffee shop, right?
You're,
Peggy Delaney. Toronto Tribune?
Well, what do you know? So you are.
Nick Bauer did call you, didn't he? He told you about me?
Good old Nick. He didn't say Peggy Delaney, though. He said Peggy McGillicuddy.
McGillicuddy?
Yeah, he said you needed a break. You were a young reporter.
Well, at least he got that part right. The absolute bum. Look, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Anyway, this could be a lot more interesting.
Then what?
Than anything else I'm likely to do today.
Do you mind if I smoke?
Puff away.
Well, thanks, officer.
I'll have to give you a ticket.
Really?
I'm kidding.
Oh, well.
How come you hate cops so much?
I don't hate cops. It's just that sometimes you guys do dumb things, and you think no one has the right to question anything you might do. So I question. That's my job. But generally, as a whole, you do a crummy, thankless, irritating job in a more or less acceptable manner.
I've got goosebumps. How about sometime I tell you what the job of being a cop is really all about?
The party line, the serve and protect stuff?
No, the real stuff.
Okay. But right now, I'd like to talk about Jenny Scorsone.
Shoot.
Well, I just don't get it.
What don't you get?
The why of it. Usually it's in a fit of uncontrollable temper, isn't it? Or it's the action of some demented, sadistic creep. And always when they're alone with the child, not with the parents still in the house.
There's no rule book that I know of.
No, I know.
Sometimes logic has nothing to do with it. People do things. They hear voices, or they just can't think straight. They're not in the real world.
You think Jenny Scorsone is crazy?
Strangling an 11-month-old baby is not a sane act, no matter how you look at it.
But no inkling of a motive? Nothing at all?
The husband wasn't satisfied with her work. He was going to let her go. Maybe she knew.
Why wasn't he satisfied?
Just didn't think she was doing a good job. The mother says the same thing.
And that's a sufficient motive to kill their kid? She told me she was asleep. The first thing she heard was the mother screaming.
No, that's her side of it.
And the other side?
Off the record?
Off the record.
The mother got up to go to the can. She was coming back at the end of the hall when she saw Jenny Scorsone come out of the baby's bedroom, then run back to her own bedroom and close the door. The fact that she was moving so quickly alarmed the mother. She went into the baby's room and found her son. He was still warm, and he was dead.
What's Jenny charged with exactly?
We started with manslaughter to hold her. It's only been 5 days. We're still gathering evidence. So...
Funny Jenny didn't hear the mother in the bathroom.
It's possible. It's an old house. The bathroom's around a turn at the end of the hall, and there's plush broadloom everywhere.
So she saw Jenny...
Mm-hmm. Jenny in her flannel pajamas and bare feet coming out of the baby's room. Then on the half-run, looking guilty of something, going back to her bedroom and closing the door.
So what's bothering you?
What, do I look like something's bothering me?
Yes.
It's nothing.
I canceled all my patients this week, but, well, I find it makes the time go by just working around the office.
Yeah, well, it was very kind of you to agree to see me.
Oh, well, can you imagine? We can't even bury him yet. They haven't released him. My son.
I'm sure it must be terrible.
It's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. I understand your wife is still in hospital?
Mm-hmm. And she will be for some little while, I think.
As I said on the phone, I won't take much of your time.
Take as much as you like. Anything to get me out of my own head. I'm sorry, it's not that you're just anybody.
No, I understand. What I don't understand, though, is why Jenny Scorsone would do such a thing.
Me either. I just don't know.
A source of mine said you were about to give her notice. Had you talked to her about letting her go?
Yes.
Do you think that could be it?
I really don't know.
That night, when your wife found the baby, when you went down the hall, Jenny came out of her room. You told her to go back and get dressed. Is that correct?
I thought you were interested in the references and background information we had on Jenny before we hired. Isn't that what you said?
I am, but I'm just curious why you'd ask her to go and get dressed. You all live together. There's an emergency, so Jenny's in her pajamas, so what?
Well, she wasn't in her pajamas.
Oh?
She was in a T-shirt and panties. So I just said, get dressed, just automatically, you know.
Were you aware in your wife's statement to the police that she said Jenny was wearing flannel pajamas?
No.
I guess you were interviewed separately?
Yes.
Two pair? Why? One with pink stripes, one with blue small flowers.
The kind with trousers? Not a nightie?
Yes. But why?
So you alternate them, wearing one or the other all the time?
Yes.
So which one were you wearing the night Jason Ryan died? When Dr. Ryan told you to go back in your room and get dressed?
Jenny, did the police ask you what you were wearing?
No.
I think you better answer this for your own good. Jenny?
I was wearing a T-shirt and panties.
Why didn't you say this before?
Because I didn't know it was important. I didn't know what Mrs. Ryan was saying other than that I killed Jason.
Did you run around the house often in a T-shirt?
No, never.
Well, then, why weren't you wearing the pajamas?
Because the blue pair, they were in the dirty clothes.
And the other? The pink ones? Why weren't you wearing them?
Because they were ripped.
How did they get ripped?
Jenny?
Dr. Ryan, the night before, when Mrs. Ryan wasn't there, he ripped them.
Why?
Because I said I was leaving, that I didn't want to anymore.
Want to?
Stay quiet and just let him do what he was doing to me. All the time. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was just going to go away. So he got mad and ripped my pajamas. And did it anyway.
Why didn't you say this was going on? Why have you kept silent?
Because I thought people would think I was bad, an evil person, and that if I was jealous of his wife, that I might have killed his baby.
And did you?
No!
It's just dreadful. It's beyond imagination, really.
Well, not everyone's imagination. That's the scary part.
Yes. She'd been there for about 6 months. I can remember Grace coming into my office and saying that they'd finally found a girl they both really liked. And she was crazy. She was just crazy.
Have you been to the hospital to see Grace yet?
Twice. The first time she was so heavily sedated, I just sat there with her for an hour or so, holding her hand. There was no point talking. And I dropped in last night. She's holding on, I guess. I'm very afraid for her.
Was Dr. Ryan there?
Yes. He looked shell-shocked. Just terrible.
Well, is he a dentist?
Why?
Oh, there's no reason. I just wondered.
Well, yes. I switched to Eric when I got to know Grace.
So, what kind of a guy is he? I mean, normally, before this.
Oh, lots of fun. He's always on the go, yachting, skiing. The last time I went in to see him, he was taking up scuba diving.
Is Grace normally, is she a fun person too?
No, I wouldn't describe her that way. She has a whimsical sense of humor, but she's, deeper, I guess. Broody. The arty type. She designs our top 3 lines of clothes, you know. She's terrific. But a bit fragile, too.
Oh, in what way?
Well, that's why I'm worried about her. She's not the greatest at coping. This isn't going to get into the paper, is it?
Not if you don't want it to.
I don't.
All right.
Well, it's just that a couple of years ago, Eric, he had an affair with someone. Who knows who. But she found out, and it just about killed her. She stopped eating.
No kidding.
They patched things up somehow. I guess that's what having the baby was for. A fresh start. And that's why I'm so worried about her now. She didn't do so well after the baby was born either.
What do you mean?
Well, she had a really hard time. She suffered from... Her doctor called it a full-blown case of postpartum depression. She told me it was like being at the bottom of a well with no way out. She had to be hospitalized then, too.
Did she talk much about Jenny Caisson?
No. Not to me, anyway. Just that she was a likable girl, and that she trusted her.
Not in this one.
Well, she said she threw them in the garbage. Keep looking.
Okay. Grapefruit rinds, coffee grinds, empty box. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what?
Pink pajamas, rolled up, and the shirt's ripped, almost in half, right down the front.
Jenny, you only have to answer what I want you to answer. I'll nod or I'll interrupt.
Yes.
And everything is off the record.
I know.
Jenny, the sexual relationship that you had with Dr. Ryan...
It wasn't a relationship.
No. Do you know whether Mrs. Ryan was aware of what her husband was doing to you?
I don't know.
Did he touch you sometimes or go into your room when she was in the house?
No. She worked. Lots of times at night. He'd wait until she worked.
She could have come home early, though, seen something through a window. Well, particularly if she was the suspicious type.
Jenny, I'm curious about 2 things. One, you say you got up to give the baby a bottle between 12:30 and 1 a.m. because he was crying?
That's right.
Were you asleep?
Yes.
Well, how did you hear him?
You can always hear a crying baby. And I have a monitor beside my bed.
And 2, you said you left the bottle with the baby. That he usually falls asleep and the bottle just, rolls to the side beside him?
Yes.
So, Jenny, if the baby monitor is right beside your bed, then why didn't you hear something when this child was being strangled to death?
I don't know.
So, what are you smiling about?
Who's smiling?
You are, ever since you took that phone call.
Off the record.
Oh, Jesus, how can I work this way? Okay.
The baby bottle wasn't in the crib. It was sitting on a change table on the other side of the room.
Oh?
So I wondered, why would Mrs. Ryan, finding her baby lifeless, bother to pick up the bottle and place it over there? She was already alarmed when she went into the room, so she'd snatch her baby right up into her arms, wouldn't she?
That's what was bothering you?
Yeah. Enough to visit the hospital and lift her drinking glass. That call was from forensics. They've matched Mrs. Ryan's fingerprints with prints on the baby bottle. The prints that were on top of Jenny Caison's fingerprints. So she was the last one to touch that bottle.
But she could have moved it after she found her baby dead and not before. That's conceivable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an alternate explanation. And why she was wrong about what Jenny was wearing that night. She's that baby's mother. It's mother. I mean, it just doesn't compute that she'd kill it. Or maybe I just don't want it to compute.
The baby monitor sat on a shelf right above the crib. Somebody had turned it off. Know whose thumb and index fingerprints are on the control knob? Clear as an X-ray?
Oh. God. Hello?
Dr. Letterman to post-op, please.
Hi.
Dr. Letterman to post-op.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yes?
I'm Peggy Delaney from the Toronto Trib.
Of course you are. My husband said you might be around.
Is it okay if I sit down?
I don't know. Is it?
Thanks. I remember when they used to allow smoking in lounges in hospitals.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Did your husband say why I might be around?
No. He just stared at me and looked confused about everything.
Right. I'm really so sorry about your son and what happened to him.
So am I.
You have been listening to A Death in the Family, the latest in our series of Peggy Delaney by James W. Nichol. Featured in the cast tonight, Kyra Harper as Peggy, Caterina Scorsone as Amber, George Bouza as Detective Carlos Szabo, Martin Doyle as J.J. Mars, Susan Aceron as Jenny, J.W. Carroll as Nick. With them, you also heard Scott Denton as Dr. Ryan, Amanda Hancock as Grace Ryan, and Michelle Fisk as Barbara. The music was composed and conducted by Milan Kinlica. The recording engineer was Drago Grandich. Sound effects were by Matt Wilcott. Sandra Breitman was the associate producer. Our coordinating producer is Barry Morgan. The program was produced and directed in Toronto by Bill Howell, the executive producer of the Mystery Project. I'm Bob Boving, thanking you for listening and inviting your comments. See you next week.